But I do know that you are a mentor to a lot of kids, and you are teaching class right now. So what do you tell kids who are in college right now, who are looking for jobs, internships, things like that?
You know, what I always tell them is love what you do, because you don't get a do-over. You don't get, hey, I'm 50 and I'm going to start over again. And so, love what you do, because the money and everything else that you want to make will follow if you love what you're doing. And to me, there's nothing worse than looking back and going, you know what? I hated what I did for a living, and I have been in jobs that I've hated, and I've always tried to correct that. I've always tried to get out of that. And there's what I always try to tell students is there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. And whether it be a job choice, whether it be a class you're in, or whatever, there's nothing. There's no stigma to making a mistake. Sometimes you make mistakes, and basically, it's not making the mistake, it's how you react to the mistake. I've made so many mistakes. And what you want to do is react positively to those and say, okay, I've learned from that. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to go on. And so I try to pass that on to people, is that you know what, you've got a great opportunity now, and things are so different as far as, you can stay here. I mean, in the past, even when I was in college, I thought, you know what, I'm going to get out of Lubbock and I'm going to go do something else, because to be truly successful, you've got to go away. And what I've learned since then is not necessarily the case, and it's really not the case now, because media is so pervasive that you can do what you want and be based where you want to be based and still be successful, whether it be financially or whatever you determine success.
And so through those first jobs, over the years, we saw a really big transition once the internet came around, and once technology went to computers and things like that. So how was that transition for you in the jobs you're working at the time?
Well, it's interesting, because I worked at the time. I went from Channel 13 in sales to work for a company called CEV Multimedia, which is based here in Lubbock, but it's a national company, international company. And I started as the director of sales, and I eventually became the general manager and president of CEV. And I did that for several years. And this was right on the beginning of the internet. And so at the time when we were at CEV, and even when I started my own business, videotapes were still what people use, VHS tapes. It's hard to even fathom that now. I mean, young kids now don't even know, what a VHS tape is. But I was looking a little bit about the internet and how technology was changing, and I always felt like, and I had a great job at CEV, and was really happy, and really I learned there how to manage people, and I had to manage a big staff, and firing people and hiring people and all those things, and I cut my teeth there really as a manager at CEV, and did that for a long time. But I always had this kind of burning desire to kind of do my own thing. I wanted to do my own thing, and so I went out in 2000, and again, the internet was still just in its infancy as far as doing business and things. But I felt like there was a chance for us to do things on the internet. And so I quit my job at CEV, huge risk, to start my own business with a couple of different partners. And so we started our own business where we produced educational programs for student athletes and for high schools and for colleges, kind of very similar to what CEV does, but on a different scale. But we did them online, and we did them on DVDs. From that, because my business was struggling very early on, I bought a magazine, Red Raider Sports Magazine, which was, I had written some for them, throughout, just doing contract work for them, and just to kind of keep my foot in the water, because I loved athletics and I loved tech. And I was writing for them, and I bought the magazine from the guy that owned it. He owned one in every Big 12 market, and he was trying to get rid of them. And so I bought the Texas Tech one, thinking, hey, this is kind of a fun thing to have. It would be good cash flow for my business, which it was, and kind of keep me in the media. And it turned out, I didn't have any idea at the time that it would explode into what it exploded to, because of technology and the internet and what happened from that. We started a website, we started some other things, and it all kind of exploded from that.
Gotcha. And so talking about your current roles that you've had at Tech, one of the first ones that I noticed about you was you're the play-by-play commentator for all Texas Tech produced shows. Right. So did you always have a knack for play-by-play? Were you doing play-by-play when you were a kid, just imitating?
Yes, I did play-by-play as a kid. My two of my very best friends in the world, they're brothers, and they'd always get in fights, and I'd always do the play-by-play while they were punching the crap out of each other. But I was doing a show. We started when I was when I had my business, we started a radio show, myself and a guy named Chris Lovell, called Tech Talk. And we started that in 2005. We had done a radio show for somebody else, and we were going to the elevator, and I've got I'm always having ideas. I'm always thinking, hey, let's do this, let's do that. So I told Lovell, we're getting in the elevator, pushed the button. I remember exactly where we were. I said, we should do our own radio show. And the next week, we had one called Tech Talk, which is still on today. Lovell does it now with a guy named Brian Haney. And we did that together for a lot of years. Chris Lovell is one of my dearest friends in the world, and we did Tech Talk, and it grew tremendously, got a great following. And Larry Hayes was the baseball coach at the time, the Tech baseball coach, and one day after the show, he called our show to speak to me, and I thought, and if you don't know anything about Coach Hayes, he's really a great man, real religious man, just a good man. And as I got on the phone, I thought, what have I done to offend Coach Hayes? I must have done something. And he said, hey, Robert, I got a crazy idea. Would you like to be our play-by-play guy? And I said, well, Coach, I said, I'd love to. I said, I've never done play-by-play because I didn't grow up doing it in high schools or I didn't do it in college. And he goes, yeah, you're a smart guy. You'll figure it out. And so I started on the radio. I started as a play-by-play guy for Texas Tech on the radio, and I followed a very popular play-by-play guy, Mark Fintner. And it was brutal the first year because I'd never done it. I was kind of learning on the job. It's harder than you think it is. And I was following a really popular guy. And so I took a beating on the internet from people, just insulting, just some of the worst things you'd ever want to read about yourself. And so it didn't help me then too to learn that you're not going to ever please everybody, and the people are going to be critical. And I tried to learn from that, and I would actually write to people. You're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to just let it go. But I would actually write and say, hey, why do I suck? They'd write things like Robert Giovannetti sucks. And so I'd say, hey, why do I suck? I want to be better. Why do I suck? And sometimes they just write, I hate you, you're not Mark Finkner and all those things, the guy that had it before. But sometimes they'd say, because you do this, you do this. And I'd say, okay, you know what? That's accurate. I can fix that. And so I like to think I got better at doing it. And so I did it. I did the play-by-play for Tech Baseball on the radio for 5 years. When I was doing it the fifth year, I was here at Tech then, working for Chancellor Hance. And Chancellor Hance thought, hey, that's a lot of travel for baseball. Because you do baseball, you travel a lot during the season. So I had to give it up, which I hated giving up because I love doing it. But you can't make a living doing it here doing that. You got to have other jobs so that you can do it. So I had my real job, and I didn't want to give up my real job. So I gave it up, but I got to keep in it by doing radio when the new guy can't do it because he's got some other things. Sometimes he can't do it. But then they asked me to do the baseball stuff. So I did television Tech baseball games. And then 2 years ago, they decided Fox, who Tech has a third-tier agreement with, says, hey, we want the same guy for all your sports to kind of keep a uniform look. And so I got that opportunity, and I love it. I do volleyball, I do Lady Raider basketball, I do Red Raider basketball, and I do baseball. And hopefully we'll add some other sports, and I do the spring football game for Tech. So anything that's third-tier that Tech does, I get to do that, and it's a work in progress. I know I'm not, I don't propose to be Bob Costas or somebody, but I always try to get better. And one thing I do, and I'll tell the people that listen and students too, if you're on air, if you're doing a radio, you're doing a television show, watch yourself, listen to yourself, because you'll find things you do too that after watching it saying, why did I say that? Why do I say those things? And after I do a broadcast, I'll go home, I DVR it, I'll go home and I'll fast forward to a spot that I know I kind of stumbled or screwed up, and I'll listen to it and I'll try to get why that happened and try to set myself up to say, because what I want to do is, no one's going to be perfect, especially when you're calling a 2-hour game in anything, or baseball, sometimes it's 3 or 4 hours. But if you can try to see why you made a mistake, I think that helps make you better.
Just media in general. We got social media. We have, YouTube. We have so many different platforms to share content, to talk to one another. Where do you see that going in the future? What's the next big thing?
That's a great question. I wish I knew. If I did, you and I'd be heading off to Turks and Caicos or something like that. I think that when you look at social media and how pervasive it is now, things now that get news that would never in a million years have gotten news before, just because of the social media aspect. Sometimes that's good. I heard that sometimes used like in the Ray Rice situation. Well, if it hadn't been for social media, we never would have known about it. Well, that's a good thing, But there's other times you say, really, is this news? Are we spending a lot of time worried about things that we shouldn't be necessarily worried about? So I'm kind of like everyone else. I want us to be. I don't think for us here, we're going to be on the forefront. but we need to be close enough behind the engine that we can go with them. You know, what you don't want to be doing is you're going this direction and really where you should be going is that direction. So we want to be close enough that we can see where the train's going and we can be along for the ride. I don't know what's going to take place. I know for us, we're trying to do a lot more digital content that you can access online, and that I think for us, that's our future, that we're going to start producing a lot of things that's just online delivery. And we might eventually broadcast it over the TV station, but if we don't, we want to build enough traffic that our website and that through social media that gets enough eyeballs on it. And I think for us right now, that's probably enough for us to bite into, and then we'll just follow along and see what happens. You probably have a better idea what's going to be in the future than I do.
I'm not sure. I think we're all pretty confused.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to wrap things up, anything else you'd like to share with viewers about you, about KTTZ, public media, anything that comes to mind?
Well, I just think that I hope that people will give us a shot here. You know, a lot of times people think of PBS, NPR, they automatically think of just liberal, you know, government-funded programming. It's not necessarily, it's not the case. Obviously, we do get some government funding, and we get Texas Tech funding as well. But we try to be more than that. We try to show. I think, to me, I really hate the whole left versus right argument, because I would hope that we were smarter than that. That we could say, you know what? Sometimes it's not just left, or sometimes it's right. Sometimes there are some gray areas. Sometimes gray areas are a good place to delve into. And I think for us, programming wise, we try to provide programming that does delve a little bit into the gray area. I try to, we had a little recent controversy here about some programming, and what I told somebody is, you know what, I don't approve programming or program the station based on what I think. You know, it's not my job to say, oh, I believe in this, so let's run programming like that. It's my job to provide an overall balance of programming and let people make up their own minds. And so I hope that that's what we do here, not only on television, but also on radio. But I'm just really proud of what's going on over at the College of Media and Communication. I have a great opportunity that I work there now because I teach, and I'm really involved with what they've got going on. And I think we are providing so much opportunities now for students that didn't exist before. And I think that Texas Tech has a real chance for the College of Media and Communication to take a leadership role in this part of the country of what they're doing and what we're training students to do. And it's kind of fun to be a part of that. I love the students. One of my favorite parts of just anything I do is dealing with students, because you know, they have great ideas, great concepts, great mentality, great energy. And there's nothing better than kind of helping to mold some of that. And so I think there's some really good opportunities going forward. I mean, this is the best time ever in Texas Tech history, what's going on at Texas Tech. And the same for some colleges, I would imagine, probably are about the same they were 5, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And that's not a bad thing, because they might have already been in a good spot. But where our college is, the College of Media and Communication, you can't even fathom how different that is from where it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And a lot of that goes to Jerry Hudson, who was a great dean, a great visionary dean, and now Dean Perlmutter, who also was very visionary and kind of sees where the college needs to fit into the overall landscape. Okay.
And so how can people learn about the public media offerings here? How can they learn about KTTZ and websites, social media, things like that?
Well, they can go to our, we have a website, kttz.org. We also have the Twitter at KTTZ. You can go to our Facebook page. We have a KTTZ TV and radio Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at Robert Gio. That's a shameless plug to try to get my Twitter followers up. And you can just come by here anytime. We're out here across the street from the United Supermarkets Arena for television. Our radio station's over at the Bank Building at 19th and University. We'd love to get more students involved. We're actually have an idea about trying to get more of a news element involved for both radio and television. We'd love to eventually have a newsroom type setting, and that we just funnel a lot of students through. And so we love that. I mean, we love students. We love working with students. And so hopefully that'll just keep growing and growing.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much. I mean, you've given us terrific information. And
Too much did I
oh, no, this is great. So, so this is Julian Demers with the Managing Director of Public Media at Texas Tech University System, Robert Giovannetti. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and paying attention to us. And make sure to tune into the Hub at TTU for all the news about Texas Tech. And have a nice day. We'll see you next time.